Radhe Radhe.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Brana, for the wonderful and a melodious session, like always. Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening, everyone. Very warm welcome to today's edition of Daily Wisdom from Bhagavad Gita. We'll get started by invoking the blessings of God and Guru, like we always do. So let me share my screen and we shall get started with the topic of our discussion today. Share my screen. Okay. Okay, today I'm not going to ask, are you able to see my screen? Okay,
You can see your screen.
Thank you for confirming. All right. So we'll do our opening prayers. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. Radhe Radhe. Good morning, good evening to all of you. So let's get started with our session then. So we start with our Soul Soup segment, where we are talking about the science of mind management. Now, yesterday we spoke about, we've been talking about the topic of anger, greed, right? We saw that these two are born out of desire. Now we will continue. And yesterday we also established another link, right? We said that it is the cause of desire. Just give me a sec. Something is happening here. The cause of desire is attachment. And it is not, I think something is not right with my screen. Just give me a sec. I'm going to stop share for a second and share back again. Okay, now it's fine. So the cause of the desire is the attachment. And we saw that attachment does not happen because of the intrinsic property of something, but because we repeatedly think that thing is going to give me happiness. And that is how the attachment happens. Now, what is the cause of attachment? The cause of attachment, we'll continue to build this chain, is repetitive thinking. Not everybody's mind is attached to the same thing, right? Somebody is thinking about tea, somebody's thinking about cricket, somebody's thinking about, what is the next dress I'm going to wear on that party, right? So why we are all have different attachments or thinking about a particular or different cravings, so to say. Now, somebody is committed to golf such that their wives are practically, they're called golf widows. Somebody is so attached to their wife that they would spend all their money on pleasing her. Somebody is so attached to money that they would even forsake their family or family time to, uh, for the sake of earning money. So we all have different attachments. Now, when our mind repeatedly repeats this thought, right, revises this thought that there is happiness in this object or person, then the mind develops attachment to that person or that thing. Now, let's give an example, a mundane example. Now, in a class, there are many boys and girls that interact, right? And one day, a boy notices a girl and starts thinking, I'll be very happy if she's mine. And he continues to repeat that thought in his head. And gradually, what starts happening is starts becoming attached to her. And that person, he will continue to repeat this thought. Now he'll start telling his friends that he's madly in love with this girl. And he's unable to study also and focus also because his mind repeatedly thinks about her. How did this process start? This person, this thing will give me happiness, and I'll be very happy if this person is going to be mine. Right? Now, the friends may ridicule him. They say that they all interact with her in the class and they don't find anything different, right? None of them is crazy about her. but he's losing sleep and ruining his grades as well, thinking of her. The reason is that person, that boy, repeatedly contemplated happiness in the girl, and as a result, the mind became attached to her. Let's consider another example. How does one become attached to alcohol? Does it taste good? Right? Is it that, in the beginning itself, there's nobody in the world who will say, give me the bottle, I'm going to enjoy it. Nobody. And in fact, that it tastes awful. Tasted it as well. It tastes awful. But then they force themselves to drink it. And when the friends, that they'll convince them that we'll get pleasure from this drink and enjoy life. And some people, because of FOMO, fear of missing out, try that. And then they're saying, my friends are loving it, I will too. And they start with it, and then they get a tiny kick out of it. And then the person starts contemplating that, there's happiness in this feeling of mental lightness, temporarily. And the more they consume alcohol, the more they contemplate happiness in it, and deeper the attachment goes until finally that person becomes alcoholic. And at that point, you know, um, they would come to a point, they will say, I don't care about my family. So many families have been ruined because of alcohol. They want to cater to that addiction. First, you force yourself to do it, and then the bottle will demand attention all by itself. And the people's business, they get ruined. They don't even mind ruining their liver. And no matter what it is, all they would like to do is like that Yo-Yo Honey Singh says, right? Char bottle vodka, kam mera roz ka. They get to that stage. But how did it happen? They were not alcoholic to begin with. They repeated contemplation that led to that thing, right? So that led to the addiction itself. And Bhagavad Gita also says in 2.62, it says very clearly, it explains how our psychology, this works, right? The neural networks, how they form. It says that dhyato vishyan punsa sangaste shupajayate sangat sanjayate kama kamat krodho bijayate. While contemplating on the object of senses, this is how the cycle starts. One develops attachment to them. Attachment leads to desire, and from desire arises anger. Now, why would we repeatedly think about something that we will tackle tomorrow? But let's understand how this loop, not loop, but this chain or the link is getting established. One is leading to another to another. Now, if in the worldly sense we can get attached to something as obnoxious as alcohol or cigarette, you just imagine what it would be if you start attaching your mind to God, who's the Ras Sindhu of proper bliss. Right? Your mind may not cooperate to begin with, but then that is a bliss which is unparalleled because he is the source of all the real bliss. Or only if your mind, we can take it, and initially we may have to force it, but that is a good addiction to develop, and that is how it's meant to be. So with that said, tomorrow we will try to understand why do we repeatedly think about something, right? Is it natural to us? Of course it is natural. That is what we have been doing, right? Lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, and it just happens all by itself as if you're following a script. So we'll try to tackle up that question as well tomorrow. Today, now let's get to our Bhagavad Gita topic, this shloka, and we'll continue to talk about the four friends that we need on this journey to continue to progress spiritually. So I'm going to recite it. We'll take three hands and then we'll get into the deeper discussion around this topic. Tad buddhya tad atmanas tad nishtha tad parayanah gacchantya punaravrittim jnana nirdhut kalmashaha. Okay, let's take three hands and then we get started.
Yes. Okay. I'll first take the hands with the camera. Go ahead, Shamji.
Yeah,
Go.
Radhe Radhe, yeah. Thank you so much.
Radhe
Tad
Shyamji.
buddhyastadatmanas tannishthastat parayanah gacchantya punaravritam jnana nirdhut kalmashaha.
Very
Radhe
nice,
Radhe.
Shyamji. It's Vrittim.
Okay, punaravritam.
But
Thank you so much.
very nicely done. Thank you. Let's take a couple of more hands and then we get started. We'll fix it at 3. We have a lot of content to cover today.
Okay. Go ahead, Arunji.
We'll do
Yeah, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe.
Tad buddhayastad atmanas tad nishtastad parayanaha gacchantya punaravrittai jnana nirdhuta kalmashaha.
Very nice, Arun.
Very
Thank you.
nice. Awesome.
One more hand we'll take.
Yes, I will give it to Chandruji.
Chandruji, good to see you after a while.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
Tad buddhayastat atmanas tanishtas tat parayana gachanayana gachantya punar avritam jnana nirudhuta kamasha.
Very nice. Thank you, Chandruji. And we missed you
Thank you.
asking, are you able to hear me today? Okay, but you did well. Thank you very much for that. Okay, so we get started. In this shloka, Lord is saying those whose intellect is fixed in God, who are completely absorbed in God, with firm faith in Him as the supreme goal, such persons quickly reach the state from which there is no return, their sins having been dispelled by the light of knowledge. Now let's get started. We'll continue to build on where we left yesterday and much more. So let's start with this question: which is the richest place in this world? Does anybody know that? Okay, Sandhya is saying that. Okay, you're not allowed to answer that. I missed part of it. Okay, so the richest state in this world, yes, Nanikji, richest placed on the earth. Yes,
Go
Nanik.
ahead.
Saudi Arabia, Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia. You are right, but I'll tell you a place which is even more richer than Saudi Arabia today. Okay. I hope that this question is not asked in KBC, otherwise most people will get it wrong. Kumarji, you wanted to say something? Did I pose a question at all?
Go ahead.
Yeah, Jai Shri Ram, Jai
Ram, Jai
Hanuman.
Hanuman, Jai Siya Ram, yes, please.
So the place is Bangladesh.
Bangladesh.
It's
Okay.
filled with bungalows.
Got a lot of bungalows, huh? Okay. Samji also knows the answer, so let's continue. Is it the oil-rich Gulf states as you'd like to believe? Of course, they are rich, right? The petrodollars and all that stuff, we know, right? There was a guy, when I was studying, what happened? We went to Middle East. So Middle East, we had a class, and the class, what would happen is people would come at their time. So class would start at 9 and they would come at 9:30. It'll start at 9:30 and then 10 and then 10:30 and some 11. And some person will just drop in at around 12 o'clock, just before lunch. Until professor had an idea. Professor said that, you know what, I'm going to impose a fine, 100 riyals, dinars or riyals, I've forgotten the currency there, to anybody who gets late. And he said, we will put it in a common pool. And then, of course, we'll do a potluck or some kind of a party, but at least it will enforce some discipline. So game on. So next day we were sitting, we said, all right, everybody is going to make up in time today. So there's a guy who comes casually, lazily at around 9:45 or 9:50. And he said, okay, you remember the rule? Deposit $100 in the cash. Oh, he looks at it, professor, he puts 100. Then he looks at the classroom and then he gets a bundle of 100, said, this is for the people who are going to come, after an hour. No worries whatsoever. So money flows there, okay? It's pretty rich. But then there is another richer place than this one. You may think that, the land itself, oh my God, I've messed up this whole thing. African land where you have a lot of diamonds, that is also not there. Actually, the most richest place is you see that is a cemetery. The biggest calamity of the world is the waste of human resources, the unrealized potential. And there's a book, Die Empty by Todd Henry, which says that it's cemetery, as you can say, millions of people have departed, died, and they carried many valuable ideas that did not come to light nor benefit others. So the calamity, so to say, I don't know what I did with my animations today. Anyways, is the untapped potential of human life because of fixed mindset that we have. So what we need, and why do we have fixed mindset? Because we put a cap on it. Intellectually, we impose certain restrictions on ourselves. And our scripture tells us there's absolutely no limit to what you can do, right? Like this guy, who is that Henry Ford has said, if you think you can or you can't, in both cases, you are right. And intellect is one of the friends that we need on this journey, where we need to tell that anything is possible and we need to arm it with the right kind of a knowledge. Okay, so we'll continue to build on that. I'll get to that and I'll tell you a very interesting motivational story where when you have the power of, we said that intellect is powered by two W's. One is Y power and one is the willpower. And we have a interesting story today that you can derive a lot of inspiration from, because how do we, when we make up our mind and put it to something, we can end up achieving anything. I'll show you a video as well on that. Let me share it again because I have to share sound as well, which I forgot. So I'm all over the place today. That's probably because I didn't play today. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Now, once we have begun imbibing the knowledge and practicing devotion, now what? So these are the 4 faculties that we need to direct towards achieving, right, that goal. One is the buddhi, intellect, that we are talking about. This is our first friend. It needs to be directed towards God. The second one is tadatmana, which is the heart, mind, and intellect, which is solely absorbed in God. The third one is nishtha, or firm faith. We need all of them, not just one. And that is, we'll continue to build on that, how and why. And then last but not the least, tat parayana, which means striving after God as the supreme goal and refuge. These 4 things we need. So we spoke about intellect. We'll continue to build on it and introduce the or the mind part of it as well today. Okay. So let's start by
There was
listening
once.
to a video. Are you able to hear the sound? Okay,
Yes.
great. Where it's going to take the discussion that we had yesterday on the why power a little deeper. It's a beautiful short video clip from Swamiji. So let's enjoy and relish this small video.
There was once a boy. He was an extra in his school soccer team. So every day when the team would practice, he would come with his father. He would be sitting on the sideline as the extra. His father would sit in the far end in the stands with his head covered, sort of. Once he did not come for 6 days in a row. On the 7th day, he came just before the match. The school that day was playing the quarterfinal of the state league. It was an important match. He came 10 minutes before the match and said, Coach, please let me play today. The coach said, but you are not in the first 11. He said, Coach, I will not disappoint you. Give me a chance. I promise. The coach said, but you have not come for practice for the last 6 days. He said, Coach, believe me, I will not disappoint you. So there was this urgency in his voice that convinced the coach. He said, all right, in that case, do well. He gave him a few tips. Now the match started. This boy played the game of his life. Every time when the ball was shot, he would anticipate where it's going to come and be there ahead of the others. So he would grab the ball and he was running a little bit faster than the others. Nobody could catch up. And when he found himself in front of the goal, he was so focused and undistracted that he was kicking to the maximum accuracy. The consequence was that his team won 5-4, and 3 of those 5 goals were scored by him. The coach thumped him on the back and said, my, I never thought you had that quality in you. How come you played so well? You've never played like this any time in your life. He said, Coach, today my father was watching me. The coach said, but your father is not there where he used to be every day. Coach, he passed away 7 days ago. The coach said, then how come he's watching you? He is watching me from above. But he is to watch you from there as well? No, coach, he was blind. He only used to accompany me, but he could never see me play. Today is the first day when he is watching me. Today I have a strong why, a strong reason. That strong why made him exert his willpower to the extreme and play the game of his life. So that strong why is the inspiration. When you are inspired, you automatically excel at superhuman levels. When you are inspired, you are automatically focused. When you are inspired, if there are difficulties, they seem tiny and puny to you. So what? Difficulties will always come. If you are not inspired, you'll say, it's so formidable, I cannot do it. A tiny obstacle will obstruct your progress. And if you are inspired, you will cut through them all like a knife cuts through butter. So why power means to inspire your intellect.
I just have one word.
Hope you enjoyed this power-packed inspirational video, and it builds on the discussion that we've been having about why power, why it is so important. And when we have that, then willpower, it'll automatically propel us to exert our willpower to the hilt, right? Those kind of things happen. In fact, if somebody's from HR profession, they would understand that give me a sec. Yeah. If somebody's from HR profession, they would know that there's a concept which is taught in corporates about Johari window. There are 4 aspects to our personality. Okay, one aspect is the things that we know about ourselves and everybody knows. The second aspect of our personalities, think that we know about ourselves that nobody else knows. The third aspect is things that we don't know about ourselves, the people know, right? They catch certain mannerisms and then imitate it. The fourth aspect is the things that neither we know nor they know, but it comes in situations where we find a strong why and we exert ourselves. For example, a weak mother whom you can't even imagine can do an act of bravery or anything, could jump into a well to save her baby, or can even take on a tiger or a leopard if need be. So those kind of things happen when you get a strong why. That is the power our intellect has to command our body and senses when it puts that focus into it. Okay, so this is our first friend that we've been talking about. We'll continue to build on that. I have another inspirational story for you, which I love it. Every time I do that, I've recited it a couple of times, maybe once before, but every time I do it, I myself get motivated listening to this story, because I've played a lot of sports and I understand what it takes to excel in any, what it would take. So this is a story about a man with only one hand. Okay, this gentleman's name is Karli Takex. He was born in Budapest and joined the Hungarian army. Okay, so as the story unfolds, what happened was in 1936, he was a world-class pistol shooter. However, he was denied a place in Hungarian shooting team. There is a nepotism, favoritism, and all that stuff, that he was a sergeant and then he was not given a place. Although purely from a merit standpoint, he could have commanded that position. So he did not get, despite the fact that he was one of the deserving candidates. Then what happens? This prohibition was lifted because he was a sergeant, and there's a particular designation that is needed after the Berlin Games. And he was a member of the pistol team in 1938, and he was expected to win the gold in 1940 Olympics Games scheduled for Tokyo. What happens now? Now the expectations vanished when one terrible incident happened. As a sergeant in an army, a defective grenade exploded in his shooting hand, right hand, his pistol hand, and it shattered it completely. So he lost that hand through which he was supposed to shoot and was tipped to win the gold medal. Now, what's his response? Is he going to give up his dream and curse his fate for the whole of his life? It can happen to a lot of people. They can blame destiny. This thing happened. I got the wrong rub of the green and raw deal in life, and this can happen to a lot of people. Or stand up once again for his dream and get what he planned. Now, how can he stand up? His shooting arm hand is gone, right? There's a hand that he practiced with is gone. Guess what he does? So most people would have quit. They would have probably spent the rest of life, feeling miserable. He did the unthinkable. He picked himself and he started practicing with his left hand. No, we are not talking about a game that we play in a backyard. Okay, let me try with the backhand, if not right, then left. And he was not even ambidextrous to begin with. Okay. But he said, okay, I'm going to practice with my left hand. And he started doing that. Now, after 1 month of treatment, he started to teach himself shooting with that left hand. And he was not even able to write with his left hand because he was not natural at left. Some people are like ambidextrous, they can use both proficiently. He was not one of those. I mean, if somebody asked me to do anything with left hand, it's very difficult. But he didn't give up. He continued to practice. And it was not easy going for him. People cursed him, demotivated him, even underestimated him, right? He became a laughing stock. What is he trying to do here, right? Now, in 1939, what happens? He showed up at the Hungarian National Pistol Shooting Championship. Now, he is brave enough to even show up at the national championship. And when he approached there, people were surprised and said, you know what, maybe he's come here to look at, things now. Everybody knew the tragedy that he's gone through. Then he thought he's probably come here to be a spectator because he still enjoys the sport. And this guy makes a bold declaration. He said that I'm not here to spectate, but participate. So you can imagine the shock people would have gotten, the guy whose hand is gone, he's come to participate. And when the event began, everyone expected to make a feeble attempt. All right, maybe, he has a lot of enthusiasm, not backed with so much of skill that is needed at a competitive sports level. And when he pulled the trigger because, he's going to just try it with his right hand, feeble attempt, so that, whatever residual emotions are left in him, he's trying to quench that thirst. But when his turn came, he lifted the pistol with his left hand and fired shot after shot with his non-dominant hand. And all audience were awestruck. And with every shot, he hit the bullseye with his left hand. And he was shooting only with his only hand. And then he came out as a winner of that event. He went on to win that event, okay, where he was expected only to spectate. He didn't stop there. In 40, he went for the Olympics again, but his dream got shattered. Because this time, because of World War, the Olympics got shattered. Look at his fate. Sometimes he could not do it because of his surgeon. Then his hand got shattered, and this time Olympics got cancelled itself. And Olympics is not something that happens every month, right? Like it's not like an arcade event. It happens once in 4 years. So you have to wait for 4 years for that competitive sport. And most of the people, if they are good enough, they can survive one or maybe a couple of Olympics, not more than that, right? Because it comes after every 4 years. Then in 44, he waited for 4 years to fulfill his incomplete dream. And this time, the war had continued again, it got cancelled. So how many people will, even think of maintaining that intensity, skill, and motivation after that? So does he stop? No. By 48, he was 38. Okay. He was 38 years old, which is like not considered the prime for most of the sportsmen because your reflexes and everything starts going weak. If you've seen some of the cricketers, this is usually the retirement age for most of the athletes who are in the competitive sport. Now it was held in London, but he was no longer considered the favorite. He's like downhill now. Before the event, the reigning world champion asked Tegex, what was he there for? He said he was there to fight. And to everyone's surprise, he not only went on to bag the world gold medal, he set another world record in that event after such a long wait. Then in 52, again, he came back and won the gold again in Helsinki Olympics. And the mental toughness that guy had, I mean, you can only imagine that, right? How much meant to bounce back from everything that happened for him. Now, did he feel sorry for himself? No. Blame destiny? He did not do that. Excuse that he had lost his right hand? Of course not. Depressed that fate circumstances had conspired against him and deprived him of the goal? He could have gone for any of these, right? If he was made of ordinary metal. Why me syndrome? Victim card, play the victim card for the rest of life? No, nobody would have blamed him, right? He said, yeah, too bad that happened. But the point is that a strong why is something that he had and that propelled him to continue to put in his best and endeavor until he got it. And he not only got it, but bettered his own record as well. So it's a pretty amazing story. Every time I go through that. But this is what a strong why can do. And this is what human intellect is capable of when it puts its mind to something, concerted effort that it makes. and anything and everything is achievable, because as part of fragmental parts of God, God has given us infinite potential. We can achieve anything that is possible. And that is why, whether you are interested in God or not, He's definitely interested in you. Whether God matters to you or not, you definitely matter to God, and He does not lose hope. And that is where, He continues to chisel us, continues to provide us opportunities lifetime after lifetime, and continues to arm us with the right knowledge through His saints, and through this beautiful scripture, Bhagavad Gita, that we are reading. And the takeaway for us as part of this shloka is to arm our intellect with the right knowledge and do not put a cap to anything that we can achieve, including God realization in a pretty short time. Okay, not even multiple lifetimes. In one lifetime, we can do that. Easier said than done. But this is how we need to be. We need to be hopeful, and we need to have that intensity, and feel everything is doable and achievable, right? Anything that we can put our mind to is achievable. Now, having a strong intellect, is that good enough? You think Takex would have been able to do that, just having that ambition very strongly entrenched in his intellect? Let's understand that, okay? Channeling the mind aspect of it. Now, many people use their buddhi or intelligence for sensory things, but their mind may not be in that activity. Let's look at an example. Like, there might be a student who's studying quantum physics. We have to use our intelligence for the object, but mind is not there, right? You are doing it because you want to get good grades for a bright future, which in turn will facilitate your sense gratification. Reason is something else. So just having that intellectual thing where you are convinced to do something because it's important for you alone does not suffice. Your mind has to be in that activity as well. Okay, and that is where it says your mind is somewhere else, thinking about. Now his mind, when he's doing the exam or preparing for quantum mechanics, his mind be, okay, let me get over with this exam, and then after that I'm going to enjoy a movie, enjoy the popcorn and the coke along with it. However, if mind and intellect are both on the same side, he's enjoying that as well, and that strong why also propels him to put his mind to that activity, then his probability of success becomes much higher, right? And the same principle applies in material and spiritual world as well. So just it being intellectually convinced is not good enough. Your mind has to be there as well, right? We all know, right? We are soul. We all know that the goal of life is God realization, all that. That intellectual knowledge is there, but it will start sinking in deeper when we start putting our mind to it as well. And mind will not cooperate. Mind will always take us to pleasurable thing, and it will not take, it's not easy for us to even think about God or do Roop Dhyan for that matter. And Maharaj Ji used to say, Lagega nahi, lagana padega. You have to force yourself to do that. If mind would automatically go, then you're already siddh. And sadhana is exactly that practice where you force your mind to take there. You keep on forcing it until it starts to cooperate and start relishing that, because end of the day, it will start relishing that bliss because it is true bliss. So mind has to accompany intellect as well in this journey. And then, of course, there are two more faculties that we are going to introduce in the subsequent sessions that we're going to talk about it. With that said, I know I've been talking nonstop. I'll take a quick pause. Any question related to what we have spoken about or the story that we discussed?
Go ahead, Sandhya.
Radhe Radhe, is Y power a combination of both intellect and mind?
It is. Both are involved in a way, for sure, at a certain levels. I hope there is a way to objectify it, but yeah, you have to put your mind to that activity, right? It's not like I'm just using my intellect and not my mind. Yeah. So if somebody is studying quantum mechanics, his heart might not be there completely in that activity. Of course, he has to apply his mind as well. But what the shloka is telling us, your heart needs to be in that activity as well. And you have to force yourself to do that in this particular. That is what sadhana is. Sadhana is going against your lower nature and harnessing your higher nature. It will not happen automatically, but you have to force yourself to do that. Like that sugarcane example that we spoke about here.
And I have one more question. So it is the repeated contemplation of happiness which makes us attached to anything, be it in the material realm or spiritual realm. But it seems because our mind is also material, the extent of contemplation that is needed for attachment in the material realm is much lesser than that in the
Of course.
spiritual.
Yeah, that is true, because mind is material And we spoke about this concept previously. It has a Sajatiya Sambandh. Sajatiya means it belongs to the same clan as the material world. So it will automatically gravitate towards the world. You'll not have to make effort to do that. And that is where we have to do contemplation and force it. It's like giving it a whack every time it goes there, and or nip it in the bud or train it. And that is what sadhana is. If it could automatically go, then that means you are already becoming siddh. Siddh people, they don't have to put effort. It automatically goes there. For them, it's just the reverse. They have to step back to operate effectively in this world. But yes, to your point, because our mind is material, it will naturally gravitate towards the world. And we have to put a conscious effort not to sail those thoughts or give wind or air to those thoughts, and then put it in perspective as quickly as frequently as possible.
So it would be important to keep this at the back of our mind, that the amount of contemplation we need to do in the spiritual realm might be 10 times or even much, much more in order to get attached with God. And that's how we should try and progress further.
One aspect is to do contemplation. Okay, that Gyan Marg is all about contemplation, where you let it sink deeper by repeated contemplation. Second aspect is you contemplate, okay, at least at a higher level, you've understood this is important. And then you start taking dose of bhakti. When you start immersing yourself in that, the rest of the thing, bhakti, is that magic pill will start doing lot of that stuff all by itself. So that is why they say kirtan is the yuga dharma. When you start immersing yourself in kirtans or God singing God's glories, then automatically that thing will start happening within you, right? That realization, that relishing of that bliss, cleansing of antakaran, the shining forth of your intellect, and then the knowledge getting revealed from within. All those stuff will start happening automatically. So God has made this process simple actually in Kali Yuga. The problem is that we are not willing to take that step at all, or do it often enough, or do it consistently enough. We do it and then we postpone it. Okay, we get hung up in all those worldly dramas again, and we leave it thinking, become complacent about it, that we'll get back to it once things will get resolved around us. But it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and just by contemplation, I was also referring to Roop Dhyan, like doing much more of it than
Right. So easiest way to take our mind is this bhakti, the path of devotion is a emotional path where we harness and channelize our emotions on this path. Contemplation is more on the Gyan Marg. This is more of a Roop Dhyan, also is an emotional meditation. And emotion, the reason for that is that I think we spoke about that too, that our heart is like a cold wax. Only when you melt it can it take on another color. So in order to melt it, bhakti is the fastest way to do that. Roop Dhyan is the quickest way to do that. It's difficult to begin with, but once it starts happening, then it will start becoming increasingly easy. But yeah, that effort has to be put in. That is what sadhana is. Take out that time for solitude. I think UTT also Swamiji said, right? Solitude is anyway needed. Okay, even if you don't believe in God at this stage of your life, it can happen with a lot of students and teenagers. That's fine. Take solitude, do meditation, at least start harnessing the power of your mind and intellect. Because when you are withdrawing from it, then that's when you can tap into its potential. Otherwise, it's always cluttered and noisy. It's only when the water is still can you see its bottom. Same thing happens when you take some time for yourself, exercise solitude. Then you can go to or harness the greater depths of the potential that resides within our mind. But now that we are exposed to this knowledge, the next level to take is, okay, in that solitude, do dhyan, bring God to your mind. It's the best gift we can give actually, to purify ourselves, to harness the potential of our mind, and to basically do a huge favor to our spiritual journey. If we want to continue to participate in the drama unfolding around us, this will never stop, right? This will continue. There's no full stop to that at all. So mind and intellect both have to be engaged. And the other two faculties also, we'll talk about it, which is the nishtha and the focus. Why they are also important. You may have both mind and intellect, but if you don't have nishtha and focus, still the job will not be done. And that is what we'll talk about in subsequent sessions. Any more questions? It's a pretty fascinating topic. See, this is the beauty of Bhagavad Gita, that lies. I always say that, right? Krishna is master dietitian. He'll tell you about food also. Then he's a master psychologist also. He's a master, what do you call that? The concept around sociology, Marxism, communism, materialism, is tackling those as well. Pretty much every branch of material science is touched upon by Lord Krishna. He's a master in leadership courses also. He's telling how a leader should be, right? How you should approach it. So anything and everything you can think of, or you can benefit from in material life as well, is touched upon in Bhagavad Gita in great details and great depths. Yes, Aparna ji.
Go ahead, Aparnaji. You've been unmuted.
Radhe Radhe. I'm not sure if this is the correct question, but why is mind more important in spirituality? Krishna says, "Give me your mind," whereas it feels that intellect is important because intellect has to be convinced that happiness is in God. We
When he
should
says
ultimately
mind, he
surrender
includes
the
intellect.
intellect to God.
See, okay, now, is there anything that doesn't belong to God here? So that's a question. Okay, he's asking for something. That means he doesn't have it. Is there anything in this world? We said, right? This Ishavasya Idam Sarvam, this whole world has emanated from God himself. What is it that doesn't belong to him? This body, very body of our, right? Prakriti, it's a gross body, is a rental given to us by him as well. Right? And pretty much everything is his creation. He's permeated every atom, including our soul. So what is it that he doesn't have that he's asking for? Right? That's what your question is. He still doesn't have one thing. You know what he doesn't have? How we are going to choose to exert our free will, which is through our mind, intellect complex only. He doesn't have that. Whether we will choose him or not, he doesn't have that. So if you know that bhajan, सिवा दिल के टुकड़ों के ओ मेरे दाता कुछ चढ़ाने के काबिल नहीं हूँ. This is the bhajan, which is basically which is that तेरी मेहरबानी का है बोझ इतना. It's a bhajan in gratitude. One of the lines that comes is सिवा दिल के टुकड़ों के ए मेरे दाता कुछ चढ़ाने के लायक भी नहीं हूँ. So other than giving my heart to you, there's absolutely nothing I can offer to you because everything belongs to him already. But he's not taken our free will. He's given you a choice. When you offer that choice to him, that is the greatest sacrifice. Everything else belongs to him, right? There's nothing that doesn't belong to him. So that is what he's asking to offer to me because he's smart, right? When you offer his intellect and mind, then he said, all right, now I can take control. And, I'm ready to take you as an instrument at that point. So that aspect he doesn't have. That doesn't belong to him unless we exercise our free will in accordance with his will. And that is what basically surrender is. I hope that answers your question. Yeah. And that is what he's asking for as well. He said, give me your mind and intellect. Just offer that to me and that's all I need from you. Yes, Dhruvil?
Before that, there is a question in the chat. Let me read that. I've heard that the intellect instructs the mind and the mind in turn instructs the senses to do the activity.
Right.
Can you explain how the intellect works on its own and the mind on its own? This is in reference to the student of quantum physics.
Okay. Yeah. So, yes, there is a natural hierarchy there. Okay. Although it's all happening pretty quickly, the decisions that we are making in our day-to-day life, but it is at a subtle level, there is a hierarchy. Your senses will not go after anything until your mind sanctions it. Or mind says, go for it. Right? Will you put your hand inside the fire? You will not, because your mind will say, it's not safe. It will burn your hand. So your senses, and will you put your hand towards a rasgulla? Sure, if your mind says, I want to eat it, you will. Right? Now, so your senses need the approval of your mind to take any action. Now, there's a higher faculty. Intellect is considered higher than your mind because your mind has two parts to it. One is the one which goes for the things that it likes, the pleasurable things. But the intellect is the one that is making the decision. Now, your mind might be telling you to go for a rasgulla, but if your intellect says, you know what, doctor had said you have diabetes, and you can count your days or months if you continue to indulge in rasgulla, So that decision making is happening at an intellect level. So although your mind is telling you go for the Rasgulla, intellect will say no. And that is how you can stop your mind. So mind cannot do anything without the permission of intellect. Senses cannot do anything without the permission of your mind. Right? Your mind might tell you to go continue to sleep like it happens to me every day, but your intellect tells you get up, you have a meeting. Otherwise, the whole day will get spoiled. Your mind might tell you that, take it easy, but your intellect is telling you no, focus because you have an exam coming up. So there's a decision making ability that intellect carries, which mind has to obey to. You may be liking a rasgulla and you don't have a diabetes, but if somebody tells you there's a poison in it, your intellect will say, hey, you will die, so you will stop. So intellect has higher power than your mind. Now you say, how does intellect operate? Intellect is like a vessel. It has a lot of knowledge stacked in it. And which part of knowledge will get activated depends on how much you use it or how much you have contemplated upon it. So at any point in time, your decision-making ability is exercised through your intellect, right? Now, and then that is determined with what you hold dear to yourself, which knowledge gets activated. And that knowledge, if you have acquired that knowledge formally through scriptures, through a guru, then you are in a safe path because now your intellect will guide you properly. But if that knowledge is acquired based on your own experience, with what friend says, what Wikipedia says, what Google says, then it's always tricky. So intellect, whichever part of the knowledge or that vessel, whichever knowledge he has put right at the top to get activated, will determine how your mind will act and what your mind will tell, sanction. This is how your senses will act, will go for. And what your senses continue to do will become repeatedly do. That becomes your habit. And what your habit is, you are some total of your habits that defines your personality itself. So this is the complete connection between intellect, mind, senses, and your personality itself. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Nitinji. So, Dhruvilji, please go ahead. Thank you for waiting.
Yeah, I think this is very interesting, Radhe and Nitinji. I had a question, maybe two questions actually. One
Can you
is,
ask second question first?
okay.
Just go ahead, please.
Okay. My second question was, I think, what would it mean in this situation for him to actually, like, we know what it means for him to not apply his mind and intellect to the matter at hand, right? What would it mean for him to actually apply his mind and intellect? Because I tried flipping what he is doing, but I don't know if that was sort of complete in the sense of him applying his mind and intellect to, in this case, the class of quantum physics.
Mind and intellect in this particular, intellect there's a reason why he's enrolled for that course, right? That's a decision he would have taken. Why quantum physics and why not some other astrophysics or maybe nuclear physics? So he would have taken a decision. That's where his intellect would have come in picture, right? Based on something, he would have made that decision for quantum physics to enroll in quantum physics. And now, once you have enrolled for it, your intellect you have to make that decision, right? If your decision is wishy-washy, maybe not, then you will not be able to apply your heart and mind both to that particular thing, right? So intellect is the decision making, and mind is, now if you enjoy that subject, if you want to do it with a spirit of, I want to extract the maximum out of it, then you're applying your mind as well. But if your aim is just to pass that and get some grades and that's about it, then your mind is not completely there, right? You're not putting your heart and soul to it. But decision making is always happening through intellect only. And even that is also intellect which is deciding, I'll just stick to grades and not go an extra yard to get that import from the subject. Your intellect is making that decision too there also. Yeah.
Okay. Tejasji, please go ahead. Thank you for waiting.
Okay, Radhe Radhe. So my question was, in between the why power and the willpower, so the Atma, the soul, is it siding the why power, or is it siding the willpower, or it is agnostic of both the why power and the willpower?
It is
Because
agnostic.
because I'm coming back to the example that you mentioned once in the class. Like you mentioned that there is a chariot and the soul is sleeping, and then you have the chariot driver. So in that context, right, where does the soul fit in this whole scheme? Where does the Atma fit in, which is like the Ansh of the Paramatma?
Soul is right now only exerting its dominion by providing the energy, which in turn it is borrowing from the super soul. Okay.
Mhm.
Now your free will, which is the symptom of the soul, would get aligned to God's will as long as your intellect is carrying the right kind of a knowledge. Soul is only providing energy. Okay, soul is not, if you think about it, soul
Mhm.
is untainted, untouched by any of it, but it has to carry the baggage of intellect and mind. So once that is purified, then your soul will, take complete control. That
So
is the whole
so
run.
it's so it's accurate to say that the soul is agnostic of the
Soul is agnostic.
why, agnostic, right? Okay.
It is
Okay.
agnostic. However, it still has to bear the karma because the faculties that it is using are defective.
Okay. I see. So the
The
root,
faculties they are
so
using is defective, so it has to bear the brunt in form
right.
of karma in that case. Yeah.
Yeah. So the root of well-being is basically to arm your intellect with like good knowledge and
Exactly.
this thing. I see.
Exactly.
Okay.
This is why this whole
I
thing
see.
is soul
Okay.
is like pure, always pure. It is
It's
untainted.
always pure. Huh? It's
It's
untainted.
always pure. But this whole
It's
layers that we have, right? Those
uh-huh.
have to be cleansed. And when they are cleansed, that's it. Antakaran Shuddhi is all about be in touch with your soul now. Okay. Let the
I
show
see.
shine forth. We have introduced
Ha
those
ha ha
layers.
ha.
So that is that we have to
Ha,
clear our intellect with right knowledge.
ha.
And mind has to be accompany us. And then of course we need Nishtha and um, the focus aspect that we're going to talk about, those four things in this particular
Mhm.
shloka there as well. Yeah. Soul is untainted. It is pure always.
Untainted. Okay. Perfect. Thanks.
Yeah. Good questions. Good philosophical discussion today. All right, we can take maybe a couple more. Yes, Rahul, good to see you.
Pratyush, Rahul ji, yeah, go ahead, Rahul ji.
And Pratyusha, yeah, I saw maybe in the video first. Yeah, go ahead, Rahul.
We cannot hear you, Rahul ji.
Rahul, you always test us with some. Yeah, Rahul.
Radhiti, can you hear us? No, we cannot hear you.
You may have to rejoin and try that. Pratyusha, let's take Pratyusha in the meantime. Maybe last two, and then we can. Pratyusha, go ahead.
Yes, Radhe Radhe everyone, Radhe Radhe sir. Um, it's just something that I want to share. Like when Sandhya was asking regarding the first we should contemplate or first we should go for love for God. I think in my case, I went for the love for God. Maybe as sir pointed out and Dhruval also said, initially I think there should be some kind of a convincing by your intellect that this is the best thing. And when you start doing when the power is not strong enough and you're just using the mind, that will give you the initial run. And then there will be a point where you will say why, more, you need that more convincing. And then if you provide the more convincing knowledge, I think
Yeah.
your mind starts contemplating, you will start falling in that love that your mind already has. It will become very strong, and I think that is where somewhere the faith part will also become strong, and the why power of why I must follow this path also comes.
True. Nicely put, Pratyusha. Yes, initially we need a run until it starts becoming fun. Okay. Yes, Rahul.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. I think
Radhe
now
Radhe.
you can hear me.
Radhe
Yes,
Radhe.
now we can hear you.
Yeah, there is a very good Radha Govind Geet, like Doha, with respect to that why power. पल का भरोसा नहीं गोविंद राधे जाने कब काल तर नर तनु छिनवा दे. So that is why that why power, that focus is super important, because the countdown is already begun for us. In the exams we get 3 hours, 2 hours, and we know that we have to be laser sharp focused to like continue giving the exam. So same thing here also. Yeah,
True.
Radhe Radhe.
The problem happens because the knowledge slips out, right? The same thing happened. The knowledge slips out, and that's something that needs to be solidified and contemplated and repeated. So that's how the process goes. Yes, Sandhya? Maybe last. And please
Couple
fill
of
out the feedback tracker. Do not forget to fill out the feedback tracker today. If you have any questions, we'll try to bring it in the sessions as well. So do take out time to fill it out if not already. Yes, go ahead. Sorry.
Comments in the chat that I thought I can quickly read.
Sure.
So Chandan ji says, actually the mind, chit, is the part which is of sole importance in material and spiritual world, and it is the attachment of intellect and mind towards something. This is for Aparna ji's question, why God is saying to give his or Arjun's mind to him. Okay,
Yeah,
and
chit is the thing that does the cheating also, okay? Because it gets attached to wrong things. The
next,
tendency, ये अनुरागी चित्त की गति समझे ना कोई,
Jo
जो
Jo.
डूबे श्याम रंग त्यों त्यों उज्जवल होए. So this is a principle actually, that this chit, the job description of chit is to get attached to something. But the formula or the trick is when you get attached to God himself, then it starts getting purified and shining. So other than it, you're just taking on the colors of Maya and nothing more than that.
And Mahesh ji's comment, when we make decisions, it happens we make without thinking about intellect and mind, kind of seamless. Like we don't know what is involved while we are making decisions.
I mean, typically your intellect is involved in making a decision. So
Mind is also,
yeah, mind is trying to influence the intellect and saying, hey, go for the easy thing. They say that what is the biggest impediment to the highest goal? That is an easier path to the lower goal. So mind will always try to convince you, go for it. You know, the easier thing, the pleasurable thing. But intellect, if you have done strong content, people are able to harness into that power if they practiced it, right? So we always know intuitively or otherwise what is the right thing to do, but sometimes we cut a slack for ourselves and things like that. So
and last comment from Kumar ji, I really liked it. In between the will, W, power, and Y power, is the X power of God. WXY.
that is nice. WXY. Oh, that is good. That is interesting. Yes, Dhruvil, you wanted to add something? And Samiran? Maybe last two hands and then we'll move to our devotional segment. We'll wrap it up with a few chants towards the end. Yes, Dhruvil?
Yes, Samiran ji, go ahead.
Oh, Samiran.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe. Doesn't like situation or something like a strong desire can like give us the stronger why? The example for that is if there is a survival situation there, then we will not ask why. We'll just by default go for the thing that is utmost important at that situation. And also when uh, in situation where India lost the World Cup in 2007, then they like changed the whole scenario and everything, and then Dhoni came into play. So
understood. Yes, it does, and that's what God does to us periodically when He starts snatching away the toys from us and forces us to exert periodically so that we can raise our game. So yes, He deliberately creates situations at times, but this is a good thing when we are forced to dig deep when when we don't have anything, right? So it happens as well, and that's what God does as well deliberately at times to us. Narsi Mehta, his whole family got burnt in a fire. And then what he said was, there was a famous statement he had made. I don't remember that exactly. And what he said, that whatever janjal was remaining, thank you, God, for taking that away from me. Now I can solely focus on you. That was his perspective on that. So yes, God can create certain situations when we are too enamored and too infatuated with the world and things around. He may snatch away things so that we are forced to exert and start, stepping towards or inching towards our true potential, or fast tracking towards our true potential. But good point.
Dhruvil ji, your hand was raised. Go ahead, Dhruvil ji.
Let's take Keshav ji last one maybe, and then
Yeah, I think Keshav ji could go. Yeah.
and then Dhruvil, we can take maybe one more, and then we'll do 3 chants, and we should still be on time. Yes,
Go
Keshav.
ahead,
Radhe,
Keshav.
Radhe, Radhe.
Radhe.
I'm sorry I joined late, but
No
the
worries.
question is the shloka which we are discussing, is it Mayyeman Adhasa May Buddhim Niveshya?
No, no, we'll get to that.
Okay.
That's not.
Anyway, don't no worries. The concern is I heard, I mean, you people saying God wants our mind. Sorry, I don't agree with that. God does not need anything from this world from us.
Hmm.
He does not. And he has declared in Bhagavad Gita in Shloka, you know that, I don't have to go for that he doesn't need anything. And whatever he does for law, dharma. He doesn't need anything for himself. So
True.
why he asks, he never asks for our mind individually.
Yeah, he's
Every individual is individually why? Not because of mind, because of the intellect.
no,
Every person has different intellect levels, different ideologies,
right.
different philosophies, different myths. So that God says, surrender buddhi, intellect to me, but not mind. Mind is the willpower, independent. Everybody has the freedom to use his mind wherever he wants. Senses, five senses, attract the mind to those one at a time, overpowers the mind, and mind has the biggest desire for that at that moment of time.
Wonderful.
And then the mind goes to intellect. Whatever intellect he has accumulated over different lives, hundreds of lives, he has only that knowledge, and that knowledge tells him what to do. Then God says, look to your soul, the superpower you have in your body, man. Come on, grow up.
Very true.
Radhe, Radhe,
Thank
Radhe,
you.
Radhe.
Thank you, Keshevji. Always a pleasure to hear revolutionary concepts, from you. But yeah, I think in the way I've understood it is that God is saying, help me help you. Give me a dirty mind like a laundry man. I'll clean it, press it, iron it, give it back to you with an upgrade probably. But we'll continue on this discussion. Last one from Tejas before we move to our devotional segment. Yes, Tejas, go ahead.
Yeah, even my interpretation is the same thing. It's like God is asking your mind because your indulgence in Maya is too much and you don't know where you're going. So, hey, I'm going to help you, lend me your mind so that I can help you
Let
or
me clean it,
facilitate or
wash
be a
it for you.
facilitator to help you. Yeah, like you said,
Help
do
me
your
help you.
dirty
He
laundry.
doesn't need,
Help you. Yeah.
one of the definition of God is he's Atmaram, Atmarati, and Atmakrida. So he's Paripurn in himself. He doesn't need anything
He
from you.
doesn't need anything. Yeah.
He's saying,
Yeah.
help me help you, because
Help me
otherwise
help you.
you guys are on a suicidal mission anyways. So let me
Anyway.
do some cleanup job for you, and
Yeah.
only if you are willing to, and then I will give it back to you with an upgrade. Okay, good
With an
discussion.
upgrade. Yeah.
Let's move to our devotional segment. We'll take 3 chants and then we'll wrap it up for the day. Go ahead. Who's going to take, Sandhya? You're going to take the pole position? Okay, go ahead, please.
So yeah, yesterday we talked about the 3 forms of God. So this is follow-up after that. Sarva Shakti Sampanna ho, Shakti Vikas na ho, ya Radhe Radhe. Sat Chit Anand Roop Jo, Brahma Kahave So, ya Radhe Radhe. Jai Radhe Krishna Radhe Radhe, Radhe Krishna Radhe.
Very
Brahman,
nice.
sorry.
Go ahead. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Brahman is the formless, all-pervading aspect of the supreme entity in which all the powers of God are present but remain latent. It merely manifests the qualities of eternality, knowledge, and bliss.
Thank you, Sandhya. Yeah. So this this tackles the question which Gyanis or people have who follow different practices. All-pervading God, the effulgent God, the Paramatma aspect of it. It's all God, but his Shaktis are latent. He does not manifest each one of it. It's like a matchstick. The fire is latent in it. Or a seed, the whole tree is latent in it. But in Bhagavan form, he's a full form. Paripurn form where he exhibits everything. Now, light cannot do leelas, light cannot grace. So those Shaktis, light cannot bestow bliss or to the soul. So those Shaktis, even though it's God, it's a pretty high bliss, even if you merge in that effulgence, but still the Sagun Sakar form of God is a Paripurn form where you can experience God in his full glory. That's essentially what it is. And Maharaj has explained this concept so beautifully, right? The certain Shaktis are latent, although it is God only, but those Shaktis are latent. So soul, will get bereft of the highest bliss, even though that is also God realization. That's not a small goal. But for you to experience the paripurna bliss of God, you have to get attached to the Sagun Sakar form. All right, let's move on. Let's take a couple of more hands and then we'll wrap it up.
Aparna ji.
सर्वशक्ति संपन्न हो, शक्ति विकासन हो, य राधे राधे। सतचित आनंद रूप जो, ब्रह्म कहावे सो, य राधे राधे। जय राधे कृष्ण राधे 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 कृष्ण राधे.
Thank you, Aparna ji. All right, Dinesh ji, please go ahead.
Go ahead, Dinesh ji.
सर्वशक्ति संपन्न हो, शक्ति विकास न हो, राधे राधे। सतचित आनंद रूप जो, ब्रह्म कहावे सोय, राधे राधे। जय राधे कृष्ण राधे 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 राधे.
Thank you, Dinesh ji. Amritavani ji, you raise your hand rarely, so go ahead, please. We can take a couple of more minutes. That's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. सर्वशक्ति संपन्न हो, शक्ति विकास न हो, य राधे राधे। सतचित आनंद रूप जो, ब्रह्म कहावे सो, य राधे राधे। Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Riya ji, for your persistence, last one for the day, and then we wrap up. Please go ahead.
Thank you for waiting, Riya ji. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
सर्वशक्ति संपन्न हो, शक्ति विकास न हो, य राधे राधे। सतचित आनंद रूप जो, ब्रह्म कहावे सो, य राधे राधे। जय राधे कृष्ण राधे 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 कृष्ण राधे. Thank you, Radhe
Thank
Radhe.
you. Thank you. And thank you everyone again for your engaging participation and for the opportunity. You patiently listen for an hour and participate as well. That means a lot. So thank you. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Stay blessed and have a wonderful and a great rest of your day. And good to see you, Pratyusha. You turned on your video as well. Mahesh ji, good to see you. Now I get to see some faces. Aparna ji is always there. Sandhya, both Sandhya ji and Sandhya both are there. So thank you, everybody. Radhe Radhe, good night, good day from my side. Radhe
Radhe
Radhe, good to see you.
Thank you, everyone. Radhe Radhe. See you all tomorrow.
See you all tomorrow. Bye.